What's up? I wanted to go live, guys. I have not been live in a while, and I don't go live very often anyway, as a lot of you guys know, but I'm going to try to start being better about that. I have a couple folks that I follow that go live on a regular basis, and listening to them, I think it might be a good thing for me to start doing. And so maybe like every Friday or every other Friday, I'm going to try to maybe regularly get on here and share some new things in the HVAC industry. If you are coming across this and you are mentioning something in the chat, please note that I am only watching the YouTube chat. So if somebody put something in the YouTube chat, just saw something come in, then I'll be able to catch that. But if you're putting it in one of the other chats, whether it be Facebook or somewhere else that this is being shown, I'm trying to show it in a few different places. I won't see it if you're posting in those places. So, anyway, I have not done anything on the fact that we hit 20,000 subscribers last month. And I kind of made a big deal about it when we hit 10,000. And I didn't do that for 20. And I remember starting this channel just trying to help some folks with heating and air questions, and never expected it to get to 20. So is it that extravagant of an accomplishment in comparison to a lot of other YouTube channels out there? Obviously not. But I'm humbled. I appreciate you guys supporting me and my family, and I just want to say thank you for that. So we went over 20,000 subscribers last month, and I just want to say thank you for that. But I was on a podcast yesterday. I had a guy interview me. Well, it wasn't really an interview. We kind of chatted more than anything, and he was from the UK, from United Kingdom, and one of the main topics of the podcast was we were talking about the differences between the UK and the US on, when it comes to heating and air stuff. Hopefully I'm saying your name right. Heron. I will get to your question in just a second, pal. Just give me just a second. But anyway, so the podcast I had yesterday, I thought it was very interesting. The differences between the two countries were more dramatic than I realized. We were talking about, a few things. By the way, when that podcast comes out, I'm going to share it on this YouTube channel. So if you catch this video and you want to see it, I think it's going to take a little longer than we thought to come out because of some difficulties that we had. But anyway, once that comes out, the main thing that just jumped out at me immediately that I thought was interesting was over there, they call their guys that they're contractors, or their guys out in the field, they call them engineers. So the name of his YouTube channel, shout out to those guys. The name of their YouTube channel is The Outspoken Engineer. So pretty cool channel. They are going over a lot of the stuff that I go over, but from their standpoint over in the UK. And he's doing it more on a show basis. But anyway, I thought that was the most interesting thing. We call them heating and air technicians, or some guys, old school guys, will call them mechanical contractors. I call them technicians, heating and air technicians, and they call them engineers over there. So I thought that was that was the first thing that jumped out at me as I was talking to him. I thought it was pretty interesting and funny. But anyway, so hopefully I'm saying your name right, pal. I'll just call you Mr. Anderson because I'm from the South and I'm not used to your first name, so I don't want to butcher it. But it says, "What's up, brother? I have my HVAC certs from the Army, but I don't know how to do real HVAC work. Any advice?" I did a topic on that. I did a YouTube video on this topic, basically how to get into the industry, how to get your foot in the door. If you have, it sounds like you have some experience, but let's just pretend you have none. I did a YouTube video on that topic, basically telling guys, if you're trying to get in the industry, if you're trying to get your foot in the door, a lot of heating and air companies won't hire you if you have no experience. And of course, the question becomes, how do I get experience if no one will hire me, right? And it's a valid question. And I basically talked about in that video, and my advice to you would be that imagine if put yourself in my shoes or in a heating and air company shoes, and imagine you're advertising a job position and you're getting all of these applicants. So you're getting resumes or applications, and they're saying, hey, here I am, here's my experience, or whatever it is you're putting on your resume. My first bit of advice that I would give somebody like that is, what can you do to set yourself apart from the rest? And that's one of the things I talked about in that YouTube video. I think, first of all, if you have a resume, I'm sure you probably do, I would definitely be highlighting that you have at least these certifications from the Army. I can tell you, me personally, if I was hiring and I had 10 applications on my desk and 9 of them had no experience, and one of them said, hey, I was in the Army and I have a bunch of certifications in heating and air, that one would stick out a little bit. But as far as, let's see, I have my HVAC certs, but I don't know how to do real HVAC work. Any advice? My advice to you, aside from getting your foot in the door and getting a job somewhere, is I would just say become a sponge. So many guys in this industry, I can tell you that I've hired guys, they've gotten in this industry, they've worked for us, and they'll be here for 2, 3, 4 years, and they still don't even know how to do things that I have other guys that will know how to do within a few months or even less. And I guess my point in saying that is, unlike a job where it's pretty repetitive, not saying that there isn't any time that we don't do things more than once, but a job where it's repetitive, you learn it and then you're going to do it more, a whole bunch of times, right? With our industry, I would say guys that use that attitude, if they don't become a sponge, if they're not trying to learn the industry, it's hard for them to get ahead. That, in other words, if you're going to work every day, 9 to 5, most contractors work probably a little earlier than 9, but 9 to 5, and you go home every day and that's pretty much it. You turn your job off. In my experience, those guys, you have to be pretty smart to be able to pick up the trade quickly if that's the attitude you have, if that makes sense. And I'm not saying that there aren't smart guys out there, but my point in saying all this is, to answer your question, is, what is my advice? My advice is become a sponge. It's amazing to me how many guys that are in this industry that expect to get ahead, but they've never picked up a book or they've never watched a YouTube video, right? There's guys way smarter than me making YouTube videos on how to do certain things in our industry. And if you haven't watched at least one of those videos, which I'm sure you have, if you're here on YouTube and you're watching my fat face right now, then you've probably seen it, seen some videos with heating and air stuff. But it's those other guys, I'm like, man, you've been doing this for how long? And you've never watched one YouTube video and you don't know how to, wire a thermostat, I remember, I know how to wire a thermostat and have known for quite some time. And guess what? I've still watched videos on that topic, to get better or learn more. So my guys are calling me. I knew that was going to happen as soon as I go live on YouTube. But so anyway, that would be my first bit of advice. If you are trying to if you really are trying to learn this industry or learn this trade and make it your career for life, how much have you actually tried to learn the trade? How many YouTube videos have you watched? I personally, and I know they're out there, but I've personally never met anyone that's watched as many videos as I have on the industry. And am I special? No, it just means, especially when I was starting out and I was trying to get better at this, I was reading books, I was watching YouTube videos, I was trying to get better. I was trying to learn the trade. Um, I've got guys that want to be lead install techs and they've never taken the instructions home from an installation, an installation manual. They've never taken them home. And I'm like, man, I remember starting out, I would take those home and read them front to back. And I'd maybe come back to work the next day with a few questions. Hey, boss, what does this mean? I read this last night. What does it mean here? And so that's the first thing I would say. There's other things too I could probably give you advice on, but that's probably the main thing. Whether you are, doing residential, commercial, whatever it is you're doing, become a sponge, learn the trade, and then a lot of other things, not everything, but a lot of other things would fall into place for you. So it's a good question. And I think it's great that you at least have that head start, you already have some certifications in the Army. So cool. If you're still on here, let me know what those certifications are. I'd love to see it. And if you're anywhere near Virginia, we're hiring right now at Griffin Air. So we're always looking for good help. I think everyone is. Anybody that's, an established company right now, I would say 60 to 80% of those companies right now are looking for good help. Good help's hard to find, if you will. So anyway, I am going to go over a couple things here. I've got employees texting me. I'm on YouTube Live. Do you actually need something? So anyway, let me go through a couple things. And I thought, again, I don't normally do YouTube Lives because I say a lot and I'm not the most polished speaker in comparison to others. And so I like to edit a lot of that stuff out because I'm a perfectionist. But I thought it might be better because I get some feedback. I get people, they'll comment and they'll say, get to the point, you're rambling. And so a lot of my videos, I like to, if I'm going to give you 3 tips, I'm prefacing it sometimes. I'm saying, well, before I say this, let me say this, and I feel like it's more appropriate to do that sort of stuff on live, just like I'm doing right now. I'm explaining myself now, right? But one of the things that these guys that I was on a podcast again yesterday, one of the things we were talking about yesterday, aside from the differences between our two countries and the heating and air industry, that I thought was really cool to even think about is I was enjoying us talking about the future. I was enjoying his thoughts on the way things are going or how things are going to end up, if you will. And of course, I was sharing what I thought as well. And it was just fun to think about, but it was actually a little eye-opening too, especially hearing his side of it. And of course, him hearing my side of it and us going back and forth. I've said it before. I'll say it again. As far as the heating and air industry goes, I've never seen it like this. And have I been in the industry for hundreds of years? No, but I've been in it long enough now to where, I was here when the R22 phase out began and ended. Actually, probably around the time that I got in the industry, they were starting to talk about phasing out R22, I think. I mean, they were probably talking about it as early as, the 80s when they started figuring out the whole ozone layer thing. But I think it was probably the 90s before they said, look, not only are we phasing out R22, but we have the replacement we've selected. We're going to go with 410A here in the US. And so I was there for a lot that I got to experience that. I got to, as time went on, I believe it was 2016 is the last year that we could actually buy R22 equipment. Now, of course, that equipment was dry charged with nitrogen, but I could still get my hands on it. I could still call up the supply house and say, I want an R22 system. So that was not that long ago. And so that there was that, and then now we're starting to see 410A, the beginnings of that, with the AIM Act and all of that. We're starting to see 410A go down that road. So there is that. Have we ever seen refrigerant phased out and new equipment come out? Yes, but I've never seen it where, okay, so now we've got 410As being phased out. We've got the new efficiency ratings, with SEER 2 replacing SEER, and that goes into effect January 1st, 2023. One misconception or misinformation I keep hearing, people keep saying, is the whole refrigerant thing with 410A being phased out. That is not January 1st, 2023. I did a video on that. That is completely incorrect. I'm still getting people saying that on my videos. Contractors, people that are pros in my industry that are saying, yeah, the new refrigerant's coming out January 1st. That is incorrect. Whoever's telling you that is, now, is there equipment coming out that is replacing it? For example, Daikin is coming out, has already hit the American market with an R32 mini split. Yes, that we are starting to see that, but none of the main manufacturers have said, here's the date that we're done making 410A equipment. None of them have picked that date yet. I think they will, but during the making of this video, none of them have said, this is the date. And so that is one piece of information that is confused, by a lot of folks. They're hearing the SEER 2 equipment coming out, and they think that the refrigerant replacement is also, that's part of it, and it's not. It's not a part of it. So January 1st, 2023 isn't the day that all of a sudden all the manufacturers are now going to be making SEER 2 equipment with the new refrigerants. That is incorrect. And it's, now, is it possible that some of them are going to start putting products out with these new refrigerants? Yes, it's not just possible. It's coming. I would say any day now, we're going to see somebody launching stuff and pushing it and saying, this is it. This is the future. So anyway, there's that. But getting back to my whole point is, I've never seen the industry like this. So you've got the new refrigerants coming out. You've got the new efficiency standards. We now see certain states and certain politicians or parts of the EPA or, DOE or whoever taking aim at fossil fuel burning equipment, in one way, shape, or form, whether that's, as we talked about, some states are banning them entirely. Some people at the national level are at least saying we're not banning them entirely, but we are going to do away with the inefficient ones. We're going to do away with non-condensing furnaces, right? So that's another piece of this. We're starting to see that shift. And then we're also, in addition to all of this, the elephant in the room is inflation, prices rising. I've never seen I've seen prices rise. I've had years where the heating and air manufacturers will say, hey, we're having a price increase this year. I've had years where they didn't, where they said, hey guys, we're not going to have a price increase this year. But I've just never seen the industry like this. It's given me a lot of content for this YouTube channel. But it's just interesting that, especially as a professional in this and dealing with other professionals and what they're saying and how they're, I hate to be harsh about it, but how misinformed they are. I went to a class just a couple weeks ago with some guys, and they, they're sitting in this class learning about the new SEER 2 equipment coming out. And some of their questions, I'm like, you're not watching my YouTube channel, apparently. Not that I'm so great. It's just that I'm trying to stay up on this stuff. And I thought all the other heating and air professionals across the country were as well, that they were trying to stay on top of it. So the whole point in all this is if you're a homeowner and you're in the market for a heating and air system and you're getting advice from folks that are misinformed, that can be frustrating, especially when you have two different contractors telling you two different things. Some contractors coming into your home telling you, yeah, the new refrigerant's coming out January 1st. Just in a few months, you're going to see all the 410A's gone. Well, that's just not true, So if you are a pro and you see this and you're telling folks that, you're misinformed, and whoever told you that is misinformed. Okay. That's not happening yet. And I say yet because there will be a day when all of the manufacturers will say, here, this is it. This is the day that we're no longer going to be selling 410A, equipment. But I think we're at least a decade away from that, probably. During the making of this video, it's year 2022, and it's probably going to be close to at least close to the year 2030 before the main manufacturers say, we're done. No more 410A equipment is coming out of this factory. I could be wrong. I might be a little wrong on the timeline, but the point is it's not January 1st, 2023. It's going to be a little bit. So if you are in the market for a heating and air system and that's playing a role in your decision, you're waiting for the new refrigerant to come out or the new equipment to come out with this new refrigerant, that should not be a part of your decision making yet, in my opinion, especially if you have a system that is on the fritz and it's time to make the leap to buy a new system. That's not me trying to sell you something. You're probably not even in my coverage area. That's me being real with you, that it's, that the new refrigerant systems should not be a part of your decision yet. Soon they will be. Soon, manufacturers are going to start saying, hey, our new stuff's out. Just like years ago, hey, 410A equipment's out. Do you want an R22 unit or do you want a 410A, unit? And with the phase out of 410, and it's going to get more expensive, just like R22, and get more scarce as time goes on, then maybe it will play a role in your decision making. But right now, if you are replacing your heating and air system anytime in the next 12 months, the new refrigerant systems coming out, in my opinion, should not play a role in your decision making. Not yet, because again, you've got a while. You've got a while now before the new stuff even comes out. I only know of one. It could be one or two more systems that I could even call up right now and say, I want to order this today. I want it by tomorrow or Monday. I can only think of one or two pieces of equipment with the new refrigerant anyway. Again, I could be a little bit wrong on this. You might have a contractor in your area that has a little more access to this stuff, but it's not as profound as you think it is. So that is, again, part of this. But, when we're talking about this industry, I've never seen a time like this. And, that was what I was talking to these guys about, as far as the future, if you will. So let me just go ahead and talk about the future of our industry, because I do think that I have some predictions, and we'll see how Gary V always makes these predictions, right? And then 3 years later, he'll make a video where he shows how right he was. He'll show a video saying, I told you Snapchat's going to get bought out by Facebook or whatever his prediction was. As far as the heating and air industry goes, I've got a few predictions, and I talked to these guys about it yesterday from the UK. The first thing I'll say is I think, especially with inflation, so the price of equipment just in the last 18 months across the board went up, right? Because of whatever, fill in blank, the pandemic, the inflation, whatever. I'm not going to get political because I know some people like to on that. Maybe we would have had this inflation regardless of who's in the White House, right? I'm not getting into that. You may disagree, you may not. I don't really. That's not the point. The point is we had inflation, systems went up. Okay, so in addition to that, so you've now got these systems that they went up because of inflation, but now they're going to go up even more because of these new ratings coming out. The interesting thing that I was talking to this guy from the UK about on that podcast was in the UK, they can't go buy, he cannot pick up the phone like I can and go buy a single stage heating and air system, even if he wanted to. They're not there. It's not even a possibility. He has some economic options out there like ductless mini splits and things like that, but he can't order the, it's how we say in America, we like our gas guzzling cars and we like our ducted air conditioners, right? He can't even order some of the things that we still can in America. Good or bad, it is what it is. He just can't. So I think that, you're going to see that. You're going to, and the reason I bring this up is as far as the future goes, now you've seen prices go up dramatically for these different reasons. You're going to see folks that want two things. The first thing is you're going to see folks make decisions that they would not have made, like, for example, going with a ductless mini split because maybe that's the only thing they can afford. There are people that they would have gone with, say, an economic option of replacing their heating and air system, but now because of all these price increases, now they're going to have to instead maybe go with an option like a ductless mini split that maybe they wouldn't have even considered before. They've got to kind of consider their options there. But the other thing with all of this is when it comes to this whole, the rich and the poor and the middle class, I think you're going to see a little more of a divide. There are people that might consider conventional central heating and air more of a luxury than a necessity than they used to because of these price increases. When I say price increases, the heating and air industry, unlike some other industries, it's one thing to say, now I'm not an economist, so, beat me up if you will, but, I already know I'm dumb on this. But I'll tell you this, with heating and air, unlike a lot of other things, when you see, say, a 6% increase or a 3% increase in a year because of inflation, when it comes to, let's just say, buying a new heating and air system, it doesn't just go up 3 or 6%. And I'll tell you why. For example, if I've got a heating and air system that I'm going to put in for somebody, and I've got the heating and air system, I've got my guys, I've got my labor I've got to pay for, I've got all the things as far as running a business. So I've got insurance, I've got the overhead of running a business, I've got the payroll taxes. So it's not just the guy's labor, but the other taxes and things that go into effect that we have to consider when we're pricing something. And then we've got the other material. So I haven't even named everything, but I'm going to stop right there. So I've got 6 things there that I just named that would be a part of the installation of that heating and air system, right? The system might have went up 6%, But now, because of all these things that I just talked about, also being affected by higher inflation, you're seeing a dramatic jump in a price, right? So you're seeing folks that maybe they could have bought a new heating and air system. And again, this isn't, oh, well, you're a nasty contractor and you're just trying to take advantage of people. Put it in yourself. A lot of smart homeowners do that anyway. They'll buy it online, and they'll, whatever it is they do, they'll cut contractors out in one way or shape or form. So that's, I'm not getting into whether that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's not what this video or what I'm talking about. I'm simply stating, just because the equipment went up 3 or 6%, because all these other things are being affected, gas prices. So now just to drive to the house, the price of a pack of brazing rods, they went up 3 or 6 or 10%, right? I can tell you to buy a bottle of acetylene to braze in the system. That's jumped dramatically since I started Griffin Air. I mean, I remember going to a supply house and paying a third of what I pay now for acetylene, nitrogen, and don't get me started about refrigerants. So the point is, unlike a lot of other industries, you're seeing, where a pack of bubble gum might have been, $1 and now it's $1.25. The heating and air industry, you're seeing folks that could have replaced that system for $5,000 and now they're having to pay $8,000 or whatever. It's jumping dramatically in price just to, replace their heating and air system. So getting back to the whole topic of what's the future hold, I just think that you're going to see folks, maybe they'll have to make decisions that they used to not have to make, that they would have just originally said, just replace the system, just put a new heating and air system in there. Now they might say, yeah, I can't really afford that right now. Maybe I need to go with this other option. Or they might be saying, I can't afford that. In the past, I might have been able to pay for that. Now I've got to finance it, So, I think that as far as the future goes, you're going to see those decisions being made when in the past they didn't have to be made. So, looks like I just lost. I don't know if you guys can still hear me or not, but I just lost the picture here. Can you guys still hear me out there? Let's see. You guys can hear me. Thanks, William. I for some reason I lost connection on my camera, and I'm not sure why yet. So if you guys could bear with me, I'm going to try to figure this out. Sorry, guys. If you guys are still with me, I am so sorry. I don't know what happened. For some reason. Oh, am I back on? I think I'm back on. I'm like a computer guru over here today. Hopefully you guys can still see my fat face. Oh, sorry about that, guys. I think I got and I didn't lose too many of you, so I appreciate that. Apparently you every time I say it, apparently I see that if y'all have ever seen that video of that kid that was on the news and he's like, apparently my dad watches the Powerball or whatever. So anyway, thanks, William. I appreciate that because sometimes I'm like, can you guys see me? So hopefully you can see and hear me. I was talking about the future of the heating and air industry and how it affects you guys, So again, if you tuned in, if you weren't here at the beginning, we're at 20K subscribers. Thank you so much for supporting us. We're going to hopefully keep giving out some info that, pisses off the heating and air industry, right? That, giving out that info they don't want everyone to know. But anyway, so let me get back to what I was talking about. I was talking about the industry and the future, what the future holds as far as that goes. So as I said, you're going to see decisions made. Mostly, we went through some of the reasons why, but mostly because prices are just simply higher than they used to be across the board for everything. Everything's higher. And because of that, folks can only afford what they can afford, right? So that's the first thing, and that's one of the things that I was talking to these guys about. Let's talk about another prediction. I always think of Gary Vaynerchuk when I make these predictions. Let's see if I'm right a year from now. I probably won't be, but prediction number 2. I think that you're going to see companies that right now during the making of this video, manufacturers, brands, heating and air somebodies that you during the making of this video have never heard of. And they're gonna hit the American market, whether they're American made or not the point, but they're gonna hit the American market and become a household name. And why do I think that? Well, I think that is the case for a couple of reasons. The first reason is, am I a conspiracy theorist on this? I think that it is certainly possible that people at the highest rankings, highest executive positions in the heating and air industry could most definitely be having lunch with people in the government in some way, shape, or form. Do I think there's a chance that those folks could be getting together and having lunch? Well, sure. I think it would probably be silly to think not, right? So, you've got these people that are, you're either in or out, right? They're in, right? And they're making these decisions, these profound decisions that affect the heating and air industry nationwide. So I think that you're going to see people like me, people that'll say, I'm not doing it the way you guys are telling us that we have to do it. And not saying that when I say me, I just mean like my whole goal in doing this YouTube channel was to give out info that, that folks don't always want you to hear, right? But I think that you're going to see brands or companies or manufacturers come out and say, kind of give the rest of the industry the middle finger and say, you guys keep having lunch. You guys keep doing things. You keep raising your prices together. We're going to come over here and do our own thing. And maybe, I don't want to say take over the industry, because that's always that's a little arrogant to say when people are like, I'm going to take over, but they're going to at least change the industry dramatically, right? You're going to see, a Walmart, for example, you're going to see a Walmart of the heating and air industry say, you guys keep raising your prices. We figured out a way, however that way is, we figured out a way to heat and cool homes in this new way, and we're changing the industry. Now, who that is, well, obviously we don't know right now, but a lot of people think it's going to be Elon Musk. We'll see. He has made comments supposedly saying that he wants to be a part of the heating and air residential industry and produce products with his technology that he puts in his cars. What that means or how that'll work, I don't know. I think it would be interesting to see if that were to happen, because obviously, there are people that would look at whatever product he's putting out just because of who he is, right? But whoever it is, during the making of this video, if we don't know who they are in the future, somebody's going to do that. I genuinely think that's going to happen. It's happened before. And I think, I'm not going to mention any names for a number of reasons, but I think you might be already starting to see that. You're seeing companies that are saying, you guys do it that way, we're going to do it this way. We're going to do things a little differently. Good or bad for the industry, I think you're going to see that happen, right? So that's my second prediction. And then my third prediction that I'll share is I think that you're going to see companies that they're going to, how do I want to say this? The guy that I had the podcast with yesterday, basically what we were saying was, you're going to see companies that come out with new technologies, right? Obviously, it's kind of silly to say that because you might be like, well, duh. But the problem with that is, and the reason I'm even bringing it up, is you're seeing right now heating and air pros, you're seeing guys in this industry that are saying, well, I'm not going board with inverter systems. Or I remember 10, 20 years ago, people saying, I'm not on board with geothermal for one reason or another. So my point in saying all this is you're going to see new technologies coming out. And I think you might also see products that aren't necessarily mainstream. They might already be out, but mainstream, more and more being offered to the public. Here's why I think that. It was a huge deal years ago, especially online, when companies started selling to the public. Because you guys know now, if you've ever Googled a heating and air system, folks they'll comment on my videos and they'll say, well, I went on such and such website and I found a heating and air system. I'm going to purchase it. I'm going to have my brother-in-law who does heating and air, I'm going to have him put it in, right? People do that from time to time. But I think that because you're seeing the shift with the refrigerants, right? So we already talked about refrigerants, new refrigerants coming out. You're seeing refrigerants, years ago, for me to even go to a supply house and buy a heating and air system or a jug of refrigerant or whatever, fill in blank, I had to get my CFC license, my EPA CFC license. Well, if they're going to come out with refrigerants that don't have CFCs in it or HFCs or whatever, you're going to see the ability for homeowners to be able to buy that stuff. It doesn't have the same risks, if you will. And I don't think these new refrigerants fall into that, right? Because they're mildly flammable. But I do think it's possible as time goes on, if they're coming out with refrigerants that don't have the contaminants or again, the CFCs or, the different things that are bad for the environment. So again, if the refrigerant doesn't have chlorine in it, well, then having a license for buying chlorine refrigerant products doesn't matter anymore, if that makes sense. I've got a comment here. Canada is going to make it so certified refrigeration workers are only allowed to install, maintain HVAC or equipment and need to get a ticket to braze pressurized lines. I'm not against it. I hear you, but I still don't even think that necessarily addresses the issue, because you're seeing people come out with products that don't require brazing anymore. You're seeing, products on the market that, you're starting to see line sets that are plug and play, whether the line sets are already maybe they're under vacuum or they're already pressurized with the refrigerant, whatever. But you're also seeing products like ProPress and all these other products coming out. So it's giving the homeowners possibly the ability to install their own heating and air equipment is the point here, is the point behind all of this. So again, if it has, so here, like we're talking about Canada, Canada is going to make it so to make it so certified refrigeration workers are only allowed to install, maintain HVAC equipment. Well, my whole point in all this is, well, what becomes HVAC equipment? And you might say, well, Josh, that's a dumb question. Well, you know how it is. People might say, well, if it's got 4 wheels, it's a car. So if it's got 2 wheels, it's a motorcycle. So they might say, well, this isn't technically HVAC equipment because it's ductless or because it's whatever, fill in blank. The whole point me even talking about this is I think you're going to see people or not people, companies coming out for ways in the future for it to be more user-friendly, if you will. It's just like with other appliances. You can already go to Lowe's or Home Depot and oh, sorry about the errors. No, it's me. I can't read. I shouldn't be reading on live video because it shows my weakness, right? See, spot, run. Yeah. Anyway, but you can already go to hardware stores now and buy other appliances like washers and dryers and refrigerators, and then homeowners will rely on someone that can repair that appliance if they want it repaired. So that's already kind of a thing, right? I will say that you guys know there are heating and air guys that they'll say, well, look, I'm not working on this piece of equipment. I'll be completely transparent with you. We do that at Griffin Air. If we come up to a house and it looks like for whatever reason the homeowner installed it and it's sloppy, it's not something that we can feel good about laying our hands on, then we won't. But my point in that is that might change, right? If time goes on, if they come out with products that the homeowner can install, like a washer or dryer, but then a heating and air guy still might want to repair it, that could be a part of this. They might say, I will do things that I wasn't before for whatever reason, So at Griffin Air, we have it in our contracts that even if we install it, again, some of you guys are homeowners and you might disagree with us, but we have it in our contract that if someone lays hands on that equipment, that it's going to void our warranty. The point is, don't touch our equipment and expect us to be on the hook for that, right? And I don't care. I had a guy this morning. He's like, well, I know this and I'm in this trade. That's not the point. I don't care if you're in the heating and air trade. The point is, if you want me to warranty a product and I find out that you're kind of getting in there and messing with things and adjusting things, it's hard for me to feel good about, the liability there, to feel good about covering that, under warranty. So what ended up happening on that particular call was, here's this homeowner, he's in there, he's adjusting things. He admitted to me that he's messing with things. And the whole problem the entire time, the reason he was getting an error on his thermostat was he was out of gas. Well, he wasn't out of gas. The gas was turned off at the tank. And so, it just kind of goes back to, here's this homeowner, he's in there messing with things. And that wasn't our equipment was not the problem anyway. So I'm sure if he were to see this, he might say, Josh, I wasn't really messing with this or that. But it's kind of not the point. The point is, getting back to the original, my whole premise of bringing this stuff up is that, you're going to see products hit the market that during the making of this video, we didn't even know about it yet. We didn't know that was possible, right? That's how technology is. That's how things work. That's how inventions are made. I think you're going to see that because the heating and air industry has become so robust. It's bursting at the seams, and you're seeing folks that, we're seeing folks up north that would have never considered a heat pump system 20 years ago, that now they are considering it. Or in some states, it's going to become their only option. They have to go electric, for one reason or another. So again, my whole point talking about all this stuff is I've never seen a time like this. The heating and air industry is so crazy right now with all the changes. It's going to be this wave of information, right? I'm just trying to ride the wave. I'm on a surfboard wave, on this wave of information that's hitting the market, because the heating and air industry is just crazy changing right now. Mr. Bizzle, $6,800 for a 4-ton, 14-seer split train. A good price. That would be a good price here. I can tell you that. In my market, in my area, I would say that if you're not sure if you're getting a good price, though, I don't know where you are, what part of the country you're in, but get a couple more quotes. People hate it when I say that, but how am I supposed to know, your market? I can tell you, if I opened Griffin Air 3 hours west, if I were to pick up and move my family and my business 3 hours west to the mountains of Virginia, I could charge way more than we charge now. Not saying I would, but I could, because all the companies up there, I have friends up there. It's where I grew up, and I hear people tell me what companies charge up there. And I'm like, wow, they would not get any business down where I am, because that's a really high price for that. So anyway, if you guys, I'm going to hang out for just another minute or two. Central Florida, nice. I wish I lived where you live, pal. Florida is a lot nicer than Virginia these days. Virginia's gotten cold all of a sudden. But I'm going to hang out for a couple minutes longer. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to ask those. I will tell you one last story before I jump off. And that is, I was helping a lady on the new HVAC guide, my website that I help folks on. I was helping her out last night. And, we've kind of been back and forth, but last night's really the first time that we've been able to chat, go back and forth, get on a chat and go through some things. And I am going to be putting out a video over the next few days that is going to help with this. And what it is, I'll get to that question in just a second. But what it is the whole point of the video is, if you're getting 10 quotes, how to kind of sift through all the information, how to, because a lot of times it's like information overload, right? As I've continued to help people on our guide, I see their side of things too. I'm in the heating and air industry, and sometimes I'm even like, wow, how are you going to? How many years do you have in your life to go through all of that? And so the point of this video I have coming out is for you to be able to break down easily these estimates as you have all these estimates coming in. Now, some folks only get 1 or 2 estimates. Some folks get 3 to 5 estimates. And you'll still be able to apply some of the things that I'm talking about in that video coming out. But In the video, I talk about if you had 10 proposals, how to almost quickly go through those proposals and figure out who your best hire can be and how to break down those proposals to see what you're looking at, apples to apples, and make a decision, with those parameters. So, how much power does the Daikin Fit 3-ton system, both outdoor condenser and indoor air handler? I guess he's asking how many amps does it draw? I would need a little more information to answer that question. I'm assuming that you're talking about the heat pump, not the straight AC fit. It's a good question. Yep. He says, yep. Let me show you how to get this answer. So if you go to, I wonder if I can share my screen. Picture and layout. Let's see. Present. Share screen. I think I can figure this out. Boom. Look at that. I just shared my screen. So let me show you, if you are watching this, how you can figure this out. I'm very familiar. We sell Daikin, is obviously our number one brand right now. Not saying they're the best in every market. If you catch this video, go with, find a good contractor and go with the brand they recommend. But the one thing I do like about Daikin is they have done a good job with providing information to the public, and not just the public, me too, the contractor as well, that a lot of other companies or brands seem to want to kind of keep under wraps, or at least make it kind of tough on you. I just did a video recently where Lennox doesn't even want you to be able to look up your warranty anymore unless you're a pro, unless you're a Lennox dealer. And so no offense, Lennox, but that's a problem, whereas you've got companies like Daikin making this very easy. So we're going to go to Daikin.com. And the first thing I'll point out, Philip, that you probably know, but in case someone watching this doesn't know, the Daikin Fit is an inverter system. So obviously we're going to be looking at if that system is running at full capacity, which most inverter systems rarely are throughout the year, right? So if you have a mild day, that system is not going to draw what we're about to go through, right? So we're going to go to residential here. We're going to come down to whole house. And then the first thing that pops up is the Daikin Fit heat pump. So if you're on daikinac.com, come down, and I'm just showing you real quick all your other options. They got VRV Life, the Sky, and your unitary stuff down here. So they make it to where even the homeowner themselves can look this up if they need to. So we're going to go to Daikin Fit heat pump. And then the last thing we're going to go to is, here's all your info. Here's your consumer brochures, technical brochures, install manual. We're going to go to, I think it's the spec sheet. The mini splits, it's called a submittal sheet, but I think with the Daikin systems, we're going here. All right, so this is the front page of that spec sheet. And I think we're going to want the performance data, but I could be wrong. So that would be page 22. But actually, let me start with page 3, the product specs. Okay. And this is just for the outdoor. So we're going to have to probably look up the indoor unit, that FEC air handler, separately. But this is, I think you said 3 tons. So the FLA, so the outdoor unit running at 100% capacity, the motor is only going to draw 2.7 amps, but the compressor, the RLA, is 20. I'm trying to find, here it is. Your minimum circuit ampacity is going to be 22.7. So it looks like they just took those two numbers and added them together. So 22.7 is your minimum circuit ampacity. Again, it is an inverter system. So, I mean, I've had times where we were just barely drawing anything on a Daikin Fit, and it's cooling the home in the summertime. Let's see. Philip P. With solar and living in California, need something that's efficient as I look into Medea, Daikin, Bosch, Gree, and a bunch of other companies I've never heard of or would recommend. Wink, wink. Yeah, I mean, if you're comparing, especially if you're comparing the maximum amp draw on these systems, it sounds like you're probably smarter than the average bear anyway when it comes to this stuff, because you're already asking a lot of these more technical questions. But I would just say that I would say, as I said a second ago, I would find a good contractor and go with what they recommend, your local market, because you're throwing out a few brands that here in Virginia don't have a very good presence. And I would hate for you to make a decision based on just how much energy it uses, only to find out you can't get a part. I just did a video on Bosch, and then I'm not going to go through all the brands you just mentioned because you might get me cussing. No, I'm just kidding. But that's what I would do. The Daikin Fit is obviously, an inverter system, but even the Daikin Fit, it's more meant for, it's basically got the same technology that, say, the Daikin 20-seer has, but, oh, you're welcome, pal. And I appreciate the question. The thing about the Daikin Fit being a side discharge unit, and as some of these other brands you mentioned also have side discharge units, that it's a smaller coil. So it has the same technology as, say, the DZ20, but because it's a smaller coil, it doesn't produce what, the quite as high of a sear, if that makes sense. And so that's the main difference. There's other differences too, obviously, but that's the main difference. So another thing you might say, well, because I don't have as much surface area of coil, we're having to move more air across that coil, meaning more fan, amp draw. The fan's having to pull more air across that smaller coil, right? So, that's just, I'm just throwing some things out there. I know you guys out in California have other things to worry about too, like how much real estate, how much space that outdoor unit takes up, especially in certain areas. So that's certainly something to consider as well. I will say, and I'll just be honest, I love Daikin where we're at, but the Daikin Fit is not as efficient as some of these systems because of the size. It's really only rated at, say, 17 SEER in some applications, or I think now it's going to be like 16.3 SEER 2, but that's mostly because of that smaller coil. So sometimes you're looking at, okay, do I want a gigantic, like the XL19 that Train has? Do I want this gigantic outdoor unit, or do I want the efficiency because of the solar? It's kind of something to think about. The other thing is, I haven't looked up the FEC air handler yet. We will in just a second. But the other thing is the fact that, if you're going to have backup heat, I don't know if you even need it out there in California, because every time I've been to California, it's been nice. But if you are in, maybe on the northern side of California, or you need backup heat strips, well, that's going to, draw quite a bit as well. So, but let's go ahead real quick. I saw another question come in, but let's real quick look up the FEC air handler. Let me pull back up, add to stream. And it's got your furnaces over here, but I think you said you're doing the air handler. And usually that's going to be the FEC. And sorry, guys, I'm just trying to answer this accurately. I think we're still going to have to go back to the spec sheet. I was hoping that it would be right there on the website, but product specs, you're going to be looking at, minimum circuit capacity for a 3-ton, 6.5. So again, that's if it's ramped up. The motor itself is probably only going to draw, 2 to 3, 4 amps max. I'm not seeing it right this very second, but here it is, FLA. So 5.2. 5.2 for the 3-ton. And again, that's if it's ramped up. So anyway, the point is, if you got backup heat strips, that really don't matter because, your heat strips are going to draw somewhere around 20 to 22 amps per 5 kW. So if you got a 10 kW in there, then you've got to account for that. I am so sorry, guys. I've got an employee that has called me 3 times since we've gotten on here. I'm going to just, if you want to hang around, I'm going to answer this last question. If you don't want to hang around, I totally get it, but I'm going to pause this for just a second here. All right, guys, sorry about that. Had an employee that called me like 3 times in a row, and I just wanted to make sure everything was okay. Dude, Philip, did you just give me $5? That is like way too kind. You did not have to do that, especially considering I don't feel like I really answered your question, but thank you so much. $5, man. Anyway, all right, we've got a question here. Philip said, I wonder if Daikin has their SEER2 numbers already. Yes, I've got a video coming out real soon. Daikin has already came out. They've already come out with all their, well, I don't know about all, but I can already purchase a lot of their SEER2 stuff. So I can literally call up right now and order, I know I can order their old 16 SEER, which I think equates to like 15.2 or 15.3 SEER2. I know I can order that because I thought I was going to have to the other day. It's out. So I got a video coming where we're going to talk about the new SEER2 numbers, product numbers coming out. So, all right, let me answer Randy's question. I know on my Miller package AC unit, the original condenser fan is 1/8 horsepower, 1100 RPMs. And when that motor failed, the repair guy replaced it with a 1/4 horsepower, 1075 RPM. So far it's working. Yeah, I'll say this, and I might get some flack on this, but it's the way I was taught, and I'm just gonna be honest about it. When it comes to rescue motors, so if we're talking about ECM or especially PSC motors, the guy that I learned under would always say, and this is, it's never failed me. Again, I might get some pushback on this. Some other heating and air pros are going to talk about how wrong I am, but I've never had an issue. The main thing that matters the most when you're talking about replacement rescue motors for an older system, especially, is the RPMs. Now, there are other parameters there. Obviously, well, I'll go through a couple things in just a second. But the point is, for example, if you have an outdoor unit that is rated for, 1075, and you were to put a condenser motor in there that's 825 RPMs, it's not going to move enough air. You're going to have a high head pressure, I think. I'm drawing a blank right now. I'd have to sit down and think about it. But you would have refrigerant issues. You would not be moving enough air across that coil. But, the quarter horsepower, all that means is it doesn't mean the fan's going to spin any faster. It's still a 1075 RPM, but it's going to be a little bigger of a motor. It's got a higher horse, more torque, if you will. And the only thing that's really going to affect you in the end is it might draw a little more energy. Instead of drawing 2 amps, it might draw 2.5 amps. But, when we're talking about rescue motors for especially again, a PSC or an ECM motor, the RPMs are what matter the most. So you're still moving the right amount of air through that system or across that coil. I've had guys talk about all these other things, that ratings that systems have. And in the grand scheme of things, more times than not, it just simply doesn't matter. There are systems out there that will think something is wrong based on the amp draw. If it's a real fancy system, if it's seeing a high amp draw from the motor all of a sudden, then it might, have an error code on the thermostat, for example. But if you have just a traditional Miller package AC, so if it's a Miller, it's more likely, it's most likely it's a Nordine unit. It's not going to have a lot of bells and whistles, and you're going to be fine for years to come. You went up in horsepower there, so the unit can probably withstand a little more abuse, or and when I say abuse, I mean you not changing your air filter as often as you should, right? So it's abusing that fan motor. It's putting more of a strain on it. So anyway, I'm about to wrap up, guys. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to answer those. I don't normally do this, but I was on here. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. We're about to wrap up. But again, thank you guys for supporting us. 20,000 subscribers. Philip gave me $5. I'm not used to that. Maybe I should do lives more often so people can just pay me money. But no, I again, if you have any questions, I'll answer anything you got for the last couple minutes here. I'll just again, I told you about the video that I've got coming that'll help you go through how to sift through tons of proposals, how to break those down real easy, or at least easier. I know sometimes it's information overload, especially if you were to read every proposal from front to back. If you got 10 proposals to replace your heating and air system, and you read each one of them from front to back, I can't imagine I would fall asleep, after the third one. So that would be tough. So I got that video coming for you guys. And another thing that we have popping up in every single video now is I'll put a little blurb there that says, hey, if you have any questions or video suggestions, go ahead and send that to an email that we've got set up. And it's actually at the bottom here, hvacguide1@gmail.com. If you send questions and suggestions to that to that email, I will, for the most part, I try to get to those. If I don't already have a video for that particular topic, There have been times that, you know, if their question, if I've already touched on that before, I think it might be a little silly to do a video again on the same thing. So, you know, we might tell them to watch that video, right? But yeah, so I'm going to wrap up here in just a second. I appreciate you guys. 20,000 subscribers, on our way to 50, hopefully soon. And, you know, we're going to be talking more and more about the heating and air industry and some of the new things coming out and so on. I've got 5 videos in the hopper of new things that, you know, you guys need to probably know about and so on. So one in particular that I had to put my thinking cap on to make that video. So haven't seen any more questions come in. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. I'm going to wrap up now. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And again, I don't know if we're going to do this every Friday, but at least every other Friday, I'm going to try to hop on YouTube Live and share anything and everything that you need to know when it comes to the heating and air industry or whatever. Something, you know, maybe it's not heating and air related. My wife was telling me, I'll wrap up with this. My wife was telling me that the snow crabs, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but the snow crab population has diminished by 90%, they say. I mean, I don't know how that works or how accurate that number is, but they say that it's diminished by 90%. And because of that, you know, there are certain restaurants near us that's their main thing. They sell crab legs, and they're not going to have a crab season this year because of it. And it's just nuts, man. I don't know. I'm not going to get political. I don't understand why there's got to be two sides to every issue, though. I'll say that. It seems like everything on it doesn't matter what it is. There's always two sides to every single issue out there. I just don't understand why there has to be two sides to everything. Like you can't agree on something, you know? You can't agree that 90% of the crabs dying is a bad thing, you know? I just don't understand that. So anyway, thank you guys. More videos coming. One in particular coming very soon that is going to affect the heating and air market quite a bit on a worldwide level, believe it or not. And why does that matter to you? Because it'll affect you locally too. It'll affect every consumer worldwide. So other than that, y'all have a great weekend. I will see you soon. Thank you.